Hello, good afternoon. You've tuned into your stocks on CNBC-TV18 and I'm Vinny Motiwala in the Mumbai studio. Today, what we're seeing across the market is a sea of red coming in, especially in the broader markets as well as the Nifty. Nifty is down now 1% in trade, almost near the day's lowest point. Let's pull the broader market up, so mid and small cap, because that's seeing a sharp fall coming in today. Nifty mid cap down more than 2.5%. Small cap also down more than almost 3% approximately is the decline that we're seeing coming in for the Nifty small cap. Actually, it's down 4% in trade. So yes, that's also almost near the day's low. So yes, broader markets is where we're seeing the clear pressure coming in. A lot of individual stocks that are moving in terms on the back of their numbers as well. But this is a show where we will solve all your stock related queries. And before we get started with the queries, let's actually go across to Abhishek, who's here to tell us Canara Bank. Okay, we'll wait for that. But let's get started with the query segment then. And we have Vaishali Parekh, who's joining in with us right now from Prabhudas Lilladher, Vice President and Technical Research at Prabhudas Lilladher. Vaishali, very good afternoon and thank you so much for joining in with us on the show. Before we get started, with those queries today, what a fall that we're seeing coming in, whether you look at the Nifty or the broader markets, we're seeing clear pressure today. Any thoughts on the markets? What are we watching out for now in terms of levels?
Hi, very good afternoon. Yes, so market has been non-stop giving us a downward slide. And today also we are holding on to the lower levels. So maybe minor bounce back can be expected, but the bias is still corrective. We have our projected target of around 22,600, 22,500 levels. But on near term, 22,800 is holding. So let's wait and watch. It's a very pathetic scenario. I mean, I think all sectors are beaten up. Even Bank Nifty is quite under threat. So I guess wait and watch.
Okay, yes, wait and watch. Surely we'll do that, Vaishali. There's no other option right now but waiting and watching. Let's get started with the query segment. And we also have Gaurang, who's joining in with us as well. So Gaurang, good afternoon to you as well. Now let's start with the first query for today. We have the first query, which is on TVS Motors. Rahul Datta, who's writing to us from Chandigarh, holding 30 shares of TVS Motors at a price of 2,000 rupees per share, making some bit of a profit on this one. But he wants to know whether he should continue to hold or look to sell this. Gaurang, let me start with you. What are your thoughts on TVS Motors?
Well, thank you so much, Vinny, for having me on the show. And apologies, I was having some issue with the Zoom link. I hope I'm audible right now. With respect to TVS Motors and the entire market, Vinny, let me give a brief. I think corrections like this, first of all, are great opportunities for investors to add on to their investments into very strong and fundamental stocks with growth prospects, even looking more positive. Now, coming to TVS Motors, well, we've been maintaining a buy and a hold for a long time. And when you have lower digit quantity of any fundamentally large cap sound stock, I think the next approach that you should have is try to save and invest a little bit more. So continue to hold, first of all. And if you do have investable amount, my advice would be to add on to the stock. And if somebody is looking at a fresh entry, new investment, he or she can definitely do that. As of now, we have a target of 2,775 from a long-term perspective.
Okay, can make some fresh entry also in TVS Motors. That's a word coming in from Gaurang, given that we're seeing a correction. Vaishali, let me take it to you. Technically, what is TVS Motor indicating on the charts? Would you also suggest that maybe the viewer could look to average, given that in the last 6 months, we've seen almost 10-11% decline coming in for the stock? So what should the viewer do now?
So technically, too, my view matches with Gaurang. Actually, yes, we have seen a good erosion in the stock. Quite oversold, and I think overall full auto index is showing signs of there isn't much of a downside if you were to ask me. So I would say these are the levels when the market is at such lows. These are the times one can start averaging stocks and better the cost price, and get good returns when it gets into a momentum. So I would say yes, it's highly oversold. So I would say 2,100 as a near term is the support level. So these are the levels that he or she can watch to start buying the stock.
Okay, let's move on to the next query. We have Nabendu Das, who's writing to us from Kolkata. He's holding 100 shares of ITC and this is at a price of 446 rupees per share, making a bit of a loss on this one. Wants to know the medium to long-term outlook for ITC. Gaurang, what's your view coming in on ITC now? Obviously, we have that value unlocking that's already happened for ITC in terms of ITC hotels. But what are we watching out for now in terms of long-term story?
Well, so Vinny, there are a lot of more expectation in terms of some of the important businesses which are in the consolidated balance sheet to get hived off and listed as a separate entity. Let's wait for the management to decide it. But as is where is the view on the stock? Well, first of all, hold on to it. The view on in terms of whether you should average, we would definitely say you can average minus the hotel business. The other verticals are contributing quite smartly and strongly to the balance sheet. And the FMCG and the e-chopal, that is the agri business of ITC, we expect that to really be the growth driver as we go forward from here on. Targets 525 would be the target. So hold and average in case if you have investable amount, and fresh investment as well as can be done.
Okay. Your view on ITC, Vaishali, charts also indicating similar trends?
So, well, there's really nothing much happening. So there's a consolidation of a support band of, 420 to 430 levels. So I would say not in a hurry. I mean, one needs to wait for these stocks because normally it is the FMCG. When markets are so corrective, it's the FMCG which try to give a bounce and participate in the market. So I would say, yes, 420 would be the support. The stock would give us a conviction of a good strength of an up move will be only above 450, 470 levels. So till then, I would say just wait it out.
Let's move on to the next query. We have Shikhar Datta, who's writing to us from Mumbai, holding 100 shares of IDFC First Bank at a price of 60 rupees per share. Wants to know, he's looking to invest for 10-year time period. So wants to know the outlook now for the stock. Vaishali, let me take it to the charts. What is the indication coming in? Long-term story is, does it merit continuing to hold the stock?
So I would say actually, these are the stocks. I mean, this is one of the stocks which technically always showed that, yeah, it's oversold and all. But there's no return that we've been seeing even for a long term or a short term. I would say rather get into stocks like ICICI, SBI. I guess that would be a better stock at this juncture to get into. Shift your position right from IDFC First to SBI, ICICI, because I think at least they have a clearer picture.
Okay, yes, absolutely. There's some clearer picture on that front. But let's move on. And Gaurang, your view on IDFC First Bank. Obviously, they reported their numbers also over the weekend. And we did have some commentary that came in from the management today. But your outlook for IDFC First Bank?
Well, so I agree and concur with the view Vaishali has that, when it comes to priority investment into banking sector, large cap would be definitely the preferred side. And over there also between the large cap, I think strong public sector banks like SBI, a bank like ICICI Bank, which announces numbers on Saturday, very strong set of earnings. But down the line also, if you have to go to mid cap and maybe small cap banks, then as a disclosure, we do have a coverage on IDFC First Bank, I beg your pardon. There have been difficult times, Vinny, as far as earnings is concerned for IDFC First Bank, not only in third quarter, but even the quarter gone by, that is the second quarter. MFI segment exposure led to a higher degree of provisioning, which led to a squeeze on the bottom line, that is profitability reported. Whether these things are going to slip on to fourth quarter, well, it looks like, because the management said that fourth quarter, though it may slip over, but the impact is not going to be as severe as we've seen in second and third quarter. And with the new financial year, 1st April 2025, the situation can get better. Hold on, and 71 is the target on IDFC First Bank. Okay.
Keep an eye out on those target levels over there. Let's move on. And Rainbow Medicare, that's the next query that we have the viewer asking and talking about in terms of stocks. Unnikrishnan C is writing to us about this from Chennai, holding 200 shares of Rainbow Children's Medicare at a price of 1,635 rupees, currently making a loss. The stock is trading at 1,379. Wants to know whether he should continue to hold or look to sell this one and book out their losses. Also wants to know the overall outlook for the stock. Vaishali, what's your view coming in for this one?
So technically what I'm looking at even from the weekly chart, I mean, the trend is quite intact. So I would say these are the stocks like Rainbow, Apollo Hospital, Fortis, etc. They would have a good growth story anyway. So I would say technically, since it matches my view, I would say continue holding and look for a good time once we see good up move coming in. This stock is likely to go towards 1700 levels. So, in my opinion, this was a hold.
Okay, hold coming in for Rainbow Children's from Vaishali. But Gaurang, your view on the fundamentals, do you also think it's a good growth story that could play out?
Well, it definitely looked a good story. And when the IPO was there, Vinny, way back in April 2022, if I'm not mistaken, we had come out with an IPO. Floor was at 516 to 542. Shares were given out at 542. In case if you're a long-term investor, keeping the IPO note as a base and the kind of performance that we've seen in terms of numbers, specialty hospital, especially focusing on children's health side, long-term looks quite positive.
Long term looks positive. That's the word coming in from Gaurang as well. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break, viewers. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more of your stock related queries after this break. Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned into your stocks on CNBC TV18. We still have with us Gaurang Shah of Geojit Financial Services as well as Vaishali Parekh of Prabhudas Lilladher to solve all your stock related queries. Let's move on to the next query then. We have Sharaya, who is writing to us from Kerala. She's holding 200 shares of IRCTC at a price of 950 rupees per share. Wants to know whether she should continue to hold the stock or book her losses in this one. Gaurang, what's your view coming in for IRCTC?
Well, so it's one of the strongest contenders in terms of the changes and the transformation that we are witnessing in the Indian Railways, Vinny. Unfortunately, we don't have a coverage, so I won't be in a position to say buy, sell, and hold. But a lot of people are under the understanding that this is just a ticketing company for the Indian Railways, but it does a lot more than just ticketing. It does a lot of catering also, and with the kind of new launches that the Indian Railways are planning in the next 3 to 5 years, I think this company could be one of the biggest beneficiaries of the transformation that we are witnessing in Indian Railways.
Okay, and on the technicals, Vaishali, what's the indication coming in for IRCTC? Should the viewer continue to hold or book her losses?
So now that she's held on for so long, continue holding. Keep a stop loss of 730 because I'm seeing chart of all periodicities, even the monthly chart. The final support lies at around 730. And if the stock has some inherent strength, it should bounce from these levels, that is 730. Failing which, it would negate the trend of the long-term period also. So I would say continue holding and keep a stop loss of 730.
Okay, keep an eye out on those levels over there for IRCTC. The next query we have is on Tata Motors. We have Samuel John who's writing to us from Mumbai. 70 shares of Tata Motors is what he had bought at a price of around 945 rupees. So currently, obviously, they're making a loss on Tata Motors. The stock is trading at 714. What's the long-term view on this one, Gaurang?
We have been maintaining a positive stance on Tata Motors, even when the stock was a huge underperformer, Vinny, in the entire order pack. We maintained a positive stance, then stock recovered, saw levels of in excess of maybe about 1050, 1100. From those levels, we saw correction, unfortunately, because of the numbers reported and, of course, the concerns as well as the JLR revenue contribution is concerned. But we're maintaining a positive view, Vinny, and our targets currently are somewhere close to about 855. There are a couple of triggers. One of them is, of course, in terms of reducing the debt on the balance sheet. The second one is hiving of the commercial business and listing it as a separate entity. And the third one, which is work in progress, is manufacturing JLR in their plant in Sanand, Gujarat. I think if all these things augur well, then we are definitely going to see a turnaround. There are new launches also, Vinny, a host of them lined up, almost about 6 of them, if I'm not mistaken, for this calendar year 2025.
Okay, surely keeping an eye out on Tata Motors. Vaishali, on the technicals, what's the chart indicating for Tata Motors? Obviously, because last 6 months has been a disappointment in terms of returns, right? 36% downtick for Tata Motors. What should the viewer do?
Right. So as a disclaimer, we had suggested a sales strategy on this for a trading perspective, right from 750 levels. So currently it's at around 714. And I would say even if there is some more corrective move left, I think a prominent support lies at around 670, 680. And I don't see much of a downside from there on. So I would say these are the levels that one one should continue start looking at for a buying opportunity.
Okay. The next query we have is coming in from Navendra Sharma, who's writing to us from Bihar, holding 100 shares of Star Health at a price of 510 rupees. He is a medium to long-term investor and asking the future prospect of Star Health. Gaurang, what's your view coming in for the medium to long term?
See, when you are when you are invested in stock market, and in case if your investment has gone the other way, and if you are in red, then you should change your time horizon and put a workable strategy in place. So firstly, we are maintaining a positive stance. There was a difficult time for Star Health Insurance in terms of the market share and the kind of news flows that was there. There was some data breach also, which news flows that was there in the market. I don't know how credible it was. And in terms of reported numbers, there was a disappointment. But we believe that health-related insurance business and companies are likely to do well. In case if you have investable amount at this kind of corrections or maybe close to about 400, you can look at adding a little bit more. We maintained a price target of 740. This with the caveat that if earnings are something that looks much positive than what is anticipated, then definitely 740 could be target, or else we will revise it accordingly.
Okay. And Vaishali, Star Health on the charts and technicals, should the viewer actually go and start averaging at this point of time, given that we've seen a fall coming in, or continue to hold?
So technically, it is very, very much corrected, and it's in deep oversold. So if there is a fundamental strength, then I think one can start averaging at these levels. The confirmation of a reversal will come only above 465, 470 levels. So I think no harm averaging out at these levels. Keep a stop loss of 420. And once we see a clarity above 465, I think we are on the right track there.
Okay, can look to average also. Keep an eye on those levels that Vaishali also mentioned there. But let's move on to the next query. We have Nikhil Arora, who's writing to us from New Delhi, holding 350 shares of GAIL, and this is at a price of 193 rupees per share, currently making a loss. The stock is trading at 169. He wants to know whether he should continue to hold this or maybe look to sell it at the current levels. Gaurang, your view on the fundamentals for GAIL, what is it looking like?
So I think the entire exploration side, oil and gas, needs a boost with respect to not only the policies that will be out on 1st of Feb, that is on the budget day, when the Honorable Finance Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharamanji will unveil the budget. But even otherwise, outside the budget platform, I think the exploration sector needs a huge boost in terms of policy changes, exploration policy that we have in India, etc., etc. We have a positive coverage. 207 is the target, and by the virtue of the level that this gentleman has got invested, my advice would be that maybe at these levels or on dips, try to add on to it so that you can maximize your profit.
Okay. Thanks so much for that, Gaurang. But that was the last query for today. So thank you so much, Vaishali, as well as Gaurang, for joining in with us on the show and helping our viewers solve all the stock-related doubts. But with that, we're absolutely out of time on this edition of Your Stocks on CNBC TV18. Remember, you can always email us your queries and we will address them with our experts. Anyways, that's a wrap here, but don't go anywhere. You have a closing bell that will take you through the last hour of trade.